I want to bring in our senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila now. Aviwe, good evening to you. It's been an incredibly intense day. You've had the perspective from an eye in the sky. Talk to me about what you've seen and how it's changed over the course of the day.
Good evening, Sally, and we've just landed on the Bell 407 now, coming back from Kagiso, where it's much calmer now. They all gathered in one place, and it seems like there's some sort of order where the police and the community leaders, I assume, are also engaging the community. It was much faster earlier on in the morning when we got there ourselves, having that bird's eye view. I've never seen anything like it, Sally. There were different pockets of hundreds of protesters just all over. Normally, ordinarily in protests, you see one united protest marching to a certain direction or blockading a certain road. These were different pockets of protesters. Some of them were closing off the roads. Some of them were in the shacks in Katlehong. Some of them were burning the zama shack dwellings. Some of them were in the bushes, Sally, also seeking and trying to root out some of these zamas. We saw, of course, about a dozen of zamas also held in the bushes, and in fact being whipped with shamboks and those knobkiris. They were naked, Sally, up until police arrived at around 11 o'clock. That's the first time where then we saw police visibility, them coming to the scenes. But it was really something that I've never seen in my journalism career, where this community of Kagiso say that they've had enough, and they literally spread out in hundreds, all in different directions, where there were pockets and pockets of protesters right around Kagiso and in the West Rand area, saying that they've had enough of these protests. They've been crying of how they've been terrorized by these zamas in their communities. We've heard stories, Sally, some of them even reiterated by the police minister, Begicele, where he mentioned how these zamas go in door to door to various homes, and with such disregard and brazenness, where they take the wives from their husbands while they're sleeping in their beds and then going on to rape them. So you can see that on the ground, that this was an angry community, and really we saw it in that outbreak of this protest action that we saw around Kagiso and in the West Rand area.
All right, so you say it's much calmer now, and earlier there were pockets of people just targeting different areas, shacks, roads, etc. We've also seen visuals of people trying to block those mining holes, for example. But I want to bring you back to what you mentioned about, and these are startling images of a group of men, I think, who were stripped naked, which is such a dehumanizing thing. What have you been able to find out about that incident? Are these people who are believed to be foreign miners, zamas? What happened to them? What did the community say to them? Were you able to get more information?
Well, they're believed to be illegal miners, the zamas, and they were literally taken into the bushes just on the outskirts of Kagiso. They were marched there, Sally, as the community themselves carried on even burning some of those dwellings that were in surrounding areas. They were shamboked, Sally. They were hit by the communities. At times they'd be surrounded, they'd be put on the ground, lying there. Some of them were bloody, Sally, in the aftermath, in terms of the pictures that are now emerging on social media. But we had that bird's eye view, tracking them as they were being marched through that bushy area over there, up until they met a road that in itself was littered with rocks. And their community members, it was actually the first sight of police that we saw on the ground. One police van. It was just a few minutes before 11 o'clock where we saw that police van, but the community still continued smacking and beating up. There were 12 of them. One of them, Sally, the 13th, was left behind, left unconscious in his nakedness there. They were literally stripped naked of every piece of clothing, and we don't know what exactly happened to that gentleman, illegal miner, that was left behind there. But the rest, eventually police then, I saw a second police van come in there, and they were taken inside those police vans while they were still being shamboked by those really angry community members of the Katlehong community. We heard even yesterday in similar action, what I'd call similar actions, where the police, the Provincial General Elias Mawela, Police Commissioner, was up in one of these old mines. It's a mountainy area where they conduct their operations. It's quite a sophisticated operation where they were also burning down these dwellings. Those are the police now. And we heard just how they go into the mines, given that when the police arrived there, they ran into the mines. We hear there's a 10-kilometer stretch of underground tunnels there, which the police couldn't go into. They're not trained to go into such areas, but those tunnels lead into Kagiso. Hence, now we're seeing the community that live with these zamas take the actions really into their own hands.
Yeah, okay, so that's a perspective from the sky. Just stay with us because I'm going to bring in our colleague Manqoba Mchunu. Manqoba, good evening to you. I'm just going to hand it over to you to tell us where you are and what's happening at the moment. It seems to be a group of people moving in a certain direction. Manqoba, can you hear me? Manqoba, one more time, can you hear me? It's Sally. All right, we haven't got comms with Manqoba at this point. So, Aviwe, you were telling us just a moment ago that what you were seeing from the sky earlier was different pockets of people, angry Kagiso residents targeting things like blockading roads, breaking down shacks, that sort of thing. We're just keeping an eye on the visuals coming to us from Manqoba now. I'm not sure if you were able to see from the field, but he brought us live visuals just about an hour ago of shacks being burnt down, broken down. So a sense, the community almost telling the police, look, we've got this. We're going to handle this from here on in. I wonder, while we look at these visuals, if you could just share with us some of the other experiences you've had today. You say that this is something you've not seen before. We are all familiar, of course, with angry service delivery protests, but this is a community, I think, and you're there, you can give us your assessment, that has been terrorized for so long by criminality, and now a sense they've been heard and they want to take this moment to root it out. Of course, there's not necessarily any lawful approach to this, or would you say that apart from the incident that you've mentioned where these men were stripped naked, that generally there's a sense that they are handing to police the people they believe are criminals?
So it's a community that says that they've cried out many times to the police. In fact, this incident sparked by that horrendous rape incident that we saw of those girls that were shooting a music video not far from Kagiso itself, where it turned into terror for those girls. They're saying that they've had those ordeals time and again. It's been reported to the police, but really nothing happens. We've seen over the last number of days operations that have led to at least 150 in the majority illegal miners being arrested, and the majority of them coming from Mozambique. They've appeared in court, but when you ask the Provincial Police Commissioner, General Elias Mawela, if any of these suspects, these 150 plus, are linked to that gang rape that happened, the answer that you'd get there is no. So no suspects. So they're saying that they fed up, Sally. They took the law into their own hands, quite literally. The images that you see from my colleague Manqoba Mchunu are images that we've seen in the majority for most of the day, where they've literally burnt down each and every single shack dwelling, whether it's in the vicinity where the shacks in Kagiso are or deep in the bushes. They've literally burnt it all down, and also tried to root out each and every zama that they could find. And of course we saw them march them through in their nakedness through the bushes of Kagiso.
So Aviwe, we're getting visuals now from Nqobile Madlala, who is with the police, and it seems that they're moving through a wooded area, looks like possibly a site for mining. Nqobile, I just want to check if you can hear us right now. It's Sally. Good evening.
Well, Sally, yes, I can hear you. We are with the commissioner here. So what you see here is basically an area which they've said it's where they clean some of their gold. So the police have come in here to destroy basically the area that they use as their workforce. There's a bit of slum as well. You can see there's some of the apparatus that they use, a lot of sack as well just being here. So the police are now entering some of the mine dumps in the area with that assistant of intel that we heard from the deputy commissioner telling us that there are different task teams that are here, and we can also see the helicopter that's roving around us to ensure that there is some form of safety. But what you see there continues that where they continue to destroy the place where zamas are expected to be around the area. But of course they are still looking around just to check if there is any of those illegal miners in the area. But essentially the police just asserting that sense of authority that they were talking about, saying that they want to ensure that the people in this area are safe and that they can sleep at night, and that of course they get rid of that illegal mining in the area. But the police of course still just continuing that, closing down those holes. What you see there is some of the sacks that they use with a lot of soil in it, which we understand this is the area where they generally work. Now we know that some of these things are going to be burnt up. We can see some have matches, so it looks like they are going to be burning the area up. General Nqobile is part of those people that are here, but of course the provincial commissioner also being part of this operation. Now we saw a little earlier on, you'll remember yesterday when some of the operations were ongoing in the Krugersdorp, and this is the continuation of that, of course, with the community having made sure that there is some form of operations in the area.
So, Nqobile, we are going to keep our visuals on you. We're also seeing some visuals from Manqoba, and we also have Aviwe with us. But before we cross to Manqoba, I want to ask you two quick questions. What is the police presence going to be like tonight in Kagiso and surrounds? And do you have any more information about this one person that was killed today? Do you know anything about the circumstances of their death?
Well, at the moment, Sally, you remember we spoke to the mayor, and the mayor told us that there was one person that was confirmed dead in the area. Now, we remember that that casualty is still under investigation. He said that he alluded to explain that it's potentially someone who's an illegal miner. He said the way they are dressed potentially suggests that, but they're not clear as to whether it's the community member or an illegal miner. But what we know now is that they said that they are going to be in and around the community, which means that they are going to make sure that everyone is safe. But of course that safety is a huge concern for this community. They were talking about the fact that most of these operations happen and they still come back and they still get affected. But now the police just saying that they are going to sleep in Kagiso tonight and that they are going to be present. But the idea is to clamp down on everything and every kind of criminality that is occurring in the area at this moment.
All right, so do stay with us, Nqobile. I'm going to bring in Manqoba now. Manqoba, we couldn't have comms with you earlier. We do have your picture. Can you hear us and tell us what's happening where you are at the moment?
Well, Sally, I can certainly hear you now, but I must tell you, Sally, that we are still seeing quite a lot of community members here at this particular point. They have now moved, Sally. They were earlier on at an area known as Sianqoba, which is one of the areas here in Kagiso where they say illegal mining is rife in that particular community. And that's why we saw some of those community members dismantling some of the shacks, some of the rented shacks that they say or they believe belong to illegal miners in this particular area. We saw some of them also being torched by community members. And we have now moved, Sally, from Sianqoba. We are now moving towards an area known as Phase 2. And this is another area here in Kagiso where residents say there are quite a lot of illegal activities occurring in this particular community. In fact, they're saying that they are going to be moving from house to house here as well, which is really what we've been seeing, Sally, throughout the day. We've seen these community members members moving from the different households and really dismantling some of those houses where they believe that illegal, miners are staying. And right now we're being told just to move away from that situation. They're telling us not to come closer. As the media, of course, you understand that, some of these activities that are taking place here are really now bordering on, criminality as far as the burning of some of those shacks is concerned, as far as the dismantling of some of those shacks is also concerned. But the community members, as you can see, Sally, they are saying that they're not going to stop. They're going to continue up until they make sure that all of these illegal mining activities are rooted out in this community and that all of these criminality elements are rooted out in these communities. Baba, nenzenjani manje njengomphakathi niyaqhubeka nenzenjani?
Give someone else. No.
Okay, this gentleman doesn't seemingly want to talk at this particular point. I'm going to see, I see one gentleman here who is in front of the march and just trying to get a sense from them what's happening now and where they're heading to. Said Baba, now well, said he's not also prepared to talk. He's a bit shy. I don't know why he's a bit shy at this particular point to speak, but you can just get a sense of what's happening here on the ground. I can tell you, Sally, that even now there's still no police here. We cannot see even one police van here in this particular, move or operation that these community members are having at the moment. But they have been moving, Sally, from house to house. They're not negotiating with anybody. They move into that particular homestead, and when they move into that homestead, Sally, they literally just dismantle and they burn whatever they see. Some of the, the tools that they believe are being used for illegal mining in this particular community. So that's what's been happening here on the ground. It does remain tense because they are going into people's properties, and some of those owners, of course, have expressed their, their concern. They've expressed their unhappiness at what has been happening, but they have been saying, Sally, that they're not going to stop. They do not care what those owners have to say. All they want to do is root out these, elements of criminality as well as illegal mining in this particular area.
Looking at your visuals, Manqoba, it's really hard to judge the mood of the crowd. There's almost a jovial, excited atmosphere with little ones jumping around, a sense of occasion almost. I'm wondering if there's an element of relief that something is finally being done. Would you say generally this is a crowd that feels that they're doing the right thing in targeting people they believe shouldn't be there? Or is it a crowd that could turn volatile and angry at any moment? What is your assessment?
Well, Sally, I can tell you that, this is quite a volatile crowd because, Sally, we've seen them, celebrating. We've seen them, singing and breaking into song when, they burn some of those houses, when they dismantle some of those houses. And, there's one thing that seems, to be outstanding when it comes to this particular group of people is that they're all united, Sally. They all have one mission in mind, and that mission is to ensure that they target all of these homesteads, they target all of these shacks where they know that, illegal miners are staying. But what is concerning, of course, is that we're seeing also quite a number of young children here on the streets that are part of this particular operation that is taking place here. And, of course, the community members at this particular point saying that, despite the safety elements, they want this criminality rooted out. They've left it far too long to the police to try and deal with this. And the police have really failed them. They say that every time that they raise these particular issues to police, police do not act on this. So this is a community that is really hell-bent on saying that they want these elements removed from their community, no matter what it takes, no matter the risk to life that, they may be exposed, the danger that they may be exposed, because we're seeing young and old. We're seeing also very old people out here on the streets. And that tells you, Sally, that this is a fed-up community, a community that wants to take action once and for all. They're not waiting for the police, and they are saying that they are going to take matters into their own hands and they want to shut all of these operations down.
So earlier, Aviwe was saying his view from the sky, sort of late morning, early afternoon, that there were different groups of people from the community doing different things, whether it was trying to smoke people out of the mining holes or block the roads or destroy property. And his assessment, just from the chopper ride he took a little earlier, was that things are a bit calmer. From your position on the ground, having worked and moved around in various groups of people, would you agree that it's calmer, or do you think it's going to potentially be volatile this evening?
Well, Sally, I can certainly tell you that here where we are, it's quite volatile, Sally. In fact, these community members are still going house to house. They're saying that they're going to ensure that they go to all the houses that have been, pointed out by community members. We know as well that there is a list of those houses, those establishments, where they say that illegal miners are staying and that these illegal mining operations are happening. And when they get to the house, Sally, they just dismantle the house. They start dismantling the house, and we also saw some of the protesters, going as far as looting some of, the items, some of the corrugated irons, some of the, the equipment from those houses. So it is quite volatile here, as Sally, I can tell you that. These community members are saying that they're not going to stop. They are going to go house to house, and they're going to target specifically those houses where they know that there are illegal miners that are staying in those particular areas. So the situation remains quite tense here. It is quite volatile. Again, Sally, I haven't seen or spotted any police here, and these community members are literally on a door-to-door campaign, Sally, going to try and find those illegal miners.
All right, stay with us, Manqoba. I want to bring in Nqobile, who is with the police. Nqobile, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but it's very interesting that the police are busy with this. There's a group of police who are doing this, but there are no police in another area. Have the police attempted to explain why they're not keeping an eye and trying to control the destruction of property?
Well, Sally, what we can see here is the police destroying quite a number of the workstations. But I want to bring in the provincial commissioner to answer to those questions, Sally, because that's, of course, very important to understand. Provincial commissioner, some of the areas are still without manpower from the SAPS. What happens there?
You mean in this area?
Yes, my colleague is just crossing from another part of this area, and they're struggling to see any police officers in the area to assist with what's happening on the ground.
See, the area is vast, and we had a sporadic, gathering. But for now, because we are working with the leadership, we should no longer worry about the gatherings. We should now focus on getting those zamas, and the leadership of these communities assisting us, guiding us. Like you can see here, we came here because we are working with the leadership. We didn't know about this place, but they've guided us here. But if there are gatherings whereby people maybe they are becoming violent and so forth, we'll appreciate if we can be informed which areas, and then we can deploy accordingly.
All right, Commissioner. But the people that you are working with, the intel that they're getting, what are they telling you with regards to the areas that are now having sporadic attacks, or rather these sporadic gatherings?
Yeah, you see, they've said they know some of the areas whereby those areas are not even accessible to the police. As you can see here, we won't have normal patrol here unless somebody knows that there is this kind of operation. So they are bringing us to those kind of areas. And then during the day, when they were busy visiting all these areas, they know the places whereby these people, when they ran away, where did they go to? Right now, they've brought 4 people. And they went with my operators, where the people they went to, and then they've just arrested 4 people.
This is 4 more on top of the 22 that has already been counted. Actually,
the number it has went up. Remember, when I went to the station to can go and check, it was 26 in the cells, and we had 3 who were injured, already admitted in hospital. And when I came to that gathering there, already they had 4 people arrested who were in the van. And while we were there, before we came here, there was 1 who was also arrested. So it includes, now we have additional 4. So you can see that the number is rising.
Commissioner, is the additional 4 right here with us? Will you show us? But and figure out to see those additional whilst we try and figure out the 4 that arrested. Commissioner, I just want to find out, are we going to see more of the police officers going now into the township instead of going to some of these operations?
No, we are going to continue this operation. We are going to sustain it, because the communities are complaining, and I know that some communities in other areas, they are also impatient to say that when are you coming to our areas. But we will definitely come. I call upon them that let them calm down. We will come definitely in their areas. We know that these issues of zamas is not only here. It is also in other areas like your Rudeport, your Florida, in Ikuruleni, your Boksburg, and so forth. So those areas will still go to those areas. We are calling upon the community, please be calm. Don't worry, we'll come to your places. We know of those areas, and if there is new areas which we are not aware of, please let us know about it, and then we'll definitely come and...
For provision, Commissioner, wouldn't you say the community is far from being calm at this point?
Yes, for now, some of the community members, they're still angry, but I appreciate the leadership shown by the team which they've just accompanied us here, because they've managed the community and they've dealt with the dynamics of those crowds, and hence they've managed to can even save that 26 people who were injured, calming the community down that please don't take the law into their own hands. And the very same community members are the ones who were calling the police and assisting the police in terms of loading those ones in their vans.
Commissioner, where did they get these 5 people? I see we had said initially it was 4, which means that the number's rising again. Yes. Where did they get them, and how many numbers are we looking at now?
You see, the team which went with the leaders of this community up there in the mountain, unfortunately we lag behind, who were destroying this dwelling, are the ones who have guided the police to say this is the areas where these people they've hidden themselves, and to show that the community intelligence is on point. Here we are, we have additional 5.
Do we know where these illegal, assuming that they're illegal miners at this point, if you can confirm that for us, do we know where they come from?
For now, we don't know, but they will be taken to the police station for further processing. And that's where we'll establish where do they come from, what is their business here, and so forth. So, but that will officially establish it once we take them to the police station.
And can you confirm to us that these are illegal miners?
Definitive. As you can see that this is an illegal mining operation. Everything you see here, it is illegal.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Provincial Commissioner. Just speaking to us there, Sally, about the recent now arrest of about 5 people. We understand that the community is working with the police. So in some parts, yes, there isn't some assistance, but he's saying that with an idea, given where exactly the location is, they will send some of their members in the area. But for now, they continue destroying the dwelling, and also with the arrest of the people that you can see behind me.
Yeah, so 5 arrests, that is the latest. So that takes it to well over 26 people. And thank you for bringing us that update, Nqobile. I'm going to bring in Aviwe now. Aviwe Mtila, you, of course, have been in the sky for much of the day. I'm wondering if from that perspective, you're able to tell us just how many police officers are involved in this operation.
Sally, we saw dozens of police vans on the ground when they eventually came today after 11 a.m. only. Of course, you'd understand that the community was up in the early hours of the morning already conducting their various operations with various targets. Seems like something that was quite coordinated on the ground, Sally, given that these different pockets were moving in different directions with one mission in hand, and that is, of course, to root out and clean out Kagiso from the police. But we've seen over the last number of days, number of police operations. As I mentioned just earlier on yesterday, we were on top of an old mine on that mountain hilltop over there, which is some 300 meters away from that heinous gang rape happened on the early hours of Sunday. There, the police were also doing their own operations, doing similar operations in terms of burning those dwellings there on the top. It was just interesting to see how sophisticated these illegal miners operated, and eventually by the police, the time that the police got there, they'd run out, in fact going into those tunnels that eventually lead to areas such as Kagiso. But it's not the only mission that we saw on the ground. Even earlier on, Police Minister Kagiso was also on the ground with police, a multidisciplinary police force where it included the TRT, the Hawks, also the private security of Sibanye Stillwater, where on that particular day they arrested at least 46 members of the illegal zama operation. So there have been various police on the ground, but the one thing that they haven't gotten is actually to link all these arrests, which add up to more than 150 people that have been arrested, to that gang rape that happened on the early hours of Sunday.
All right, Aviwe, Nqobile and Manqoba, we're going to take just a pause. We're going to come back to the three of you in a moment, just to sort of get a wrap-up of what you're expecting this evening. We'll be back with you all in just a moment. Thank